What's up, folks? Welcome back to another episode of Charm City Heavyweights Podcast, brought to you by Grade 8 Memorabilia in Parkville, Maryland. I'm the host, Matt Trigger. With me, as always, is my co-host, Josh Merrill. What's going on, Josh?
What's up, Matt? Coming live from the Man Cave. It's a big show tonight. I'm excited. I broke out the rings. I only do it on special occasions. Tonight, it just seemed necessary since you don't know what it feels like. I just wanted to show them in case they're interested. They
Oh,
get there, but
man.
they never seem to finish the job.
Hey, that we don't know what that feels like, but this is Cincinnati Bengals week. This is our first meeting of the 2023 NFL regular season. We are going into Cincinnati, a hostile environment. And joining us tonight, representing the Cincinnati Bengals fan base, he is a podcaster from the 3 a.m. Coney podcast. Joining us via his return from work commute home, Lucas from 3 a.m. Coney. What's going on, brother?
Well, Josh, I might not. Here's the thing. Here's the thing I'll say, because I'm trying to get a little perspective on it. Because I could sit here and get salty, but what's that going to do? I waited my whole life for the Ravens, Browns, and Steelers fans to talk. Now,
We're losing you a little bit, Lucas. I know you might be driving through a little bit of a rough area right now. You there, buddy?
Yeah, I'm here, Matt. I don't know what happened there. I might not
Okay,
have moving under a brick or something.
Yeah, it's okay. I know my co-host took a little bit of a shot at the lack of success you guys have had in the Super Bowl, and you were saying that you've been waiting for the Ravens, Steelers, and Browns fans, and we kind of lost you.
Oh man, well that was the best part of the line. I've been waiting for you guys to stop talking about that we couldn't win a playoff game, which was my entire existence as a Bengals fan. So the fact that we're advanced in the conversation, I feel like that's progress from us. You know what I'm saying?
That's a good point. That's fair. That's fair.
It's a very fair point.
I'll give you that.
That's it's funny. The rivalry seems to have intensified between us the last few years.
It has. Big time.
It's always been the Browns and the Bengals because it's the Ohio thing, and then it's always been Pittsburgh and Baltimore because we've been in the same division. I mean, arguably as everybody, in the North for 20 some years now, but we go back to Pittsburgh since our inception, and now it seems like it's Baltimore and Cincinnati because they're the only two teams that are consistently competing for AFC North supremacy. And you guys have won the division quite often the last, handful of years. And our teams right now are kind of on a parallel playing field because we're both very good on paper. We're both very good on the field, but we just have a problem closing in big games in recent years. And you guys started off 2023, Lucas, with a very, very tough loss. Joe Burrow didn't even throw for 100 yards. You guys didn't put a touchdown on the board. It was ugly, man. What went on last week with you guys?
What is it with the Browns, Lucas? Ask him that way, Matt. What is it with the Browns? Because you guys, I think Burrow's only beat them once.
Yeah, I mean, the Browns, I would say the Browns are the worst matchup in football for the Bengals. They've got great corners that can cover. They've got a diverse pass rush, and they always get up for us every time we play them. So you combine those things, you're always going to struggle against an opponent. Plus, I think there's an added fact that there's a lot of guys on the Bengals that actually play down to the Browns. I think Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and those guys, I think they've overlooked the Browns a couple of the last times we played them. They said that Cleveland is Cleveland. They called them the Elves. I hopped on that train too, so I'm not going to get mad at Jamar. But it's a horrific matchup, and it's something we really should have seen coming. So here's what I'll say about Sunday, because I could just bring in the excuse train and whatever. It was objectively horrible. It was like a five-star restaurant serving you rat feces on the side instead of a salad. That's what it was. It just was so unexpected, so out there, so horrifically bad that I really doubt anything like that will ever happen again. And that's kind of where I'm sitting on it, because it was a combination of things. It was that Cleveland is a horrific matchup, one. Two, it was a significant rain. And I don't mean by the downpour, I meant by its effect on the ball. I don't know if you guys ever been around Lake Erie. That misting rain that happens, it like sits on everything. And I know that's an excuse, and they don't want to use it as an excuse, but I will use it as an excuse, because the ball slipped out of his hands. He threw it 6 yards behind somebody. He's one of the most accurate passers in the history of the NFL. He's not going to start throwing balls 6 yards behind somebody. There's only really two explanations for Sunday. One, it was raining. It's a bad matchup. It's week one. Talk about the calf. Talk about distractions of the contract. Or Joe Burrow forgot how to throw a football. So I'll let everybody else kind of decide what they think it is. I think there's a clear rational answer, but I mean that was it, because the offensive line looked worse because Joe wasn't seeing it. He wasn't confident in what he was seeing. He wasn't confident in his grip. He wasn't confident in letting it rip, and he was inaccurate when he did. I mean, guys, the man was wearing a glove. I watched him have his pinky swell up on him. The training staff begged for him to put a glove on to reduce the pain, and he hated the glove so much when they were playing the Chargers in 2021, he wouldn't wear it, even though it made his pinky swell up into a balloon. And he was wearing a glove the entire second half Sunday. So as Bengals Nation, I think we were always going to lose that game to the Browns. I think that it probably should have been 13-10, 16-10. I think we would have always looked ugly. I think there would have always been questions about our offense after this game. But I think the rain took a D- F performance and made it historically awful. And I could add in hubris about Zach Taylor and everything, but I'm here on a Ravens podcast. I'd like to move on from that game if we could.
Yeah, we had a similar outing. Granted, we put up 25 points, but it was our first. It was like a preseason game for us, Lucas, because that was
It
the
didn't
first time
feel
our
good.
entire
It wasn't a
starting.
good feel.
And then we got decimated by injuries. Ronnie Stanley and Tyler Linderbaum are week to week with a knee sprain and an ankle sprain, respectively. We lost Marcus Williams, our starting free safety, to injured reserve. For the second year in a row, we're going to lose him for almost the entire season, if not the
And
entire
he's a
season.
$75 million player.
A $75 million safety tore his pec off his chest plate, and his pec muscle off his chest plate and all that. And then we lost J.K. Dobbins. Seemingly, it seems like it's a broken record at this point. J.K. Dobbins tore his Achilles on a dump off pass on the goal line. He got tackled a little awkwardly, and it went pop. And we kind of knew that it wasn't good when he got up off the ground and was like gingerly walking over towards the sideline. He was carried, into the locker room. On top of all that, our offensive line was in shambles, even with Ronnie Stanley and Tyler Linderbaum healthy. And we put up 25. We should have beat the Texans by about 30 or 35 points. There's no reason that we won 25-9, and that's the first time a game has ever ended in that score in NFL history. I found that interesting fact the other day online, and we talked about that on Sunday night.
Scorigami. Love it.
Yeah, scorigami. Yeah, it was a scorigami stat. And Lucas, I'm telling you, man, it just even in victory, it felt like a defeat because it was just ugly. The entire week one of the NFL was just ugly. It was,
It always is, because
I can
nobody
reference
plays in the
everybody in the AFC
preseason.
North. No, but you're right though. But this was historically bad though, Josh. I think that this was opening a lot of people, a lot of fans' eyes, and a lot of the analysts. You had the Cleveland game, which was an anomaly. Pittsburgh got stomped by San Francisco. That wasn't even a game. Dallas beat the hell out of the New York Giants, and Then you have Aaron Rodgers tearing his Achilles on the fourth play on Monday Night Football
That's
into
just
his Jets
insane, dude.
career.
I can't get
It,
over that.
you know,
Poor
the
Jets
Cleveland
fans,
Browns.
man. Poor
The
Jets fans.
Cleveland Browns lost. The Cleveland Browns lost Jack Conklin for the year to an ACL tear. Pittsburgh lost Cam Hayward for the year for groin surgery. It was just so many big name players, Lucas. It was just an overall ugly week of football. And now here we are. We're 3 days away from game day, hoping that both of our teams are hoping to bounce back from a very subpar week one. And we've struggled against you guys in recent years in terms of dealing with your offense. And your defense couldn't really hold water for a lot of the matchups, but
Wait a
our
minute
starting
now. Whoa,
cornerbacks
whoa, whoa,
going
whoa,
into
whoa. The last 3 games, we've held their offense in check.
I mean, have
I'm
you, or
talking
you've
about the
just
wide
played less
receivers with the
possessions?
secondary.
Hold on, I have a big problem. Hold on, can I jump
Go
in here,
ahead.
Matt?
Yeah, let him jump in.
So
Absolutely.
the playoff game. I'm just going to keep going. I know we're a little on the delay. The playoff game. Zach Taylor made a great point about this the other day. I think the Ravens played the Bengals fantastically in that playoff game. I think they did a great job. But the context about the amount of points the offense scored, we need to speak about that in the first half in the playoff game, the Bengals had 3 possessions: touchdown, field goal, fumble. And in the second half, there were only 2 or 3 possessions in that one. And they had one stripped away because of the Hubbard yard dash the other way, or the fumble in the jungle, or whatever you want to call it. The Ravens smartly played Joe Burrow the way a high school team that is playing somebody that is really good, or they feel like they can't keep up with the amount of possessions, and they shorten the game. Now, will they do that same strategy with Lamar Jackson out there instead of Tyler Huntley? I don't know, but I think there's some context with the Bengals' performance against the Ravens that's neat. I think the Ravens do a great job against the Bengals, but there has been a purposeful effort, specifically in the playoff game and in the Sunday night game, right after we talked last year, to shorten the game and to where it's almost 3 or 4 less drives for each team than you would see in a normal NFL game. So credit the Ravens for
Well,
that. I think that's a smart strategy to play, but that has been the reality of the Ravens' defensive performances in this game. They forced the Bengals to have these 12 to 15 play drives, and they only give them 2 or 3 possessions each half. And and I think that's a fantastic way to play. I'm kind of worried from a Ravens perspective that they're in the let's chuck it around the field and not worry about that because of Todd Monken, and we've got all these great weapons now. And I think that more possessions in this game probably favors the Bengals, but I can't really say that yet until I watch the offense, have 2 first downs on one drive.
Hmm,
but
that's
listen, man,
fair.
but it is fair, but that's nothing special. That's the number one rule when you play a high powered offense. Cincinnati definitely has you limit their possessions, you have a greater chance of winning. Of course, a lot of teams probably try to do that against the Bengals. We were just successful at it. The
Yes.
Ravens played the Bengals all 3 times last year exactly the same way because it works. As far as the game this week, Harbaugh is all in on analytics. He has been for years. If the analytics say that's the kind of game where we have the best chance to win, he'll run the ball. We're still built to run the ball.
Yeah, you might be. I mean, I agree with you. I know the Harbaugh really is bought into the whole analytical approach, and
Oh,
right
he's not
now,
bought in. He is 100% in.
yeah, I mean, like to your credit, Josh, and to your credit, Lucas, you guys are on the same page, and I agree with you. The best defense for a high-powered offense is to keep the defense on the field, and wearing running the clock down, wearing the defense out, and that way you're making the Bengals, go into pressure drives every single time because, like you said, Lucas, they're only touching the ball 3 or 4 times a half when normally they would touch the ball 7 or 8 times a half, and you got to maximize every possession now because the Ravens are going to run the clock on you,
Yeah, well,
and
every
and
team
they
tries
move the
to.
ball on the ground at
Exactly.
will against virtually
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah, because there's only a few teams that can put up points like that, right? It's like the Chiefs, the Bengals, the Vikings. There's not many teams that can score that's that high powered.
Philly, yeah.
So, yeah, Philly, right. So that's how everybody wants to play them because, if it's a shootout, we're screwed. We can't have a shootout. No way. We're
Yeah,
not
I mean,
built
but
for a
is it?
shootout.
But then I'm confused because I thought that's what the Ravens were getting into is let's go play with the big boys because we got a big boy quarterback. We just paid him big boy money, so let's go win some shootouts. Because that's what's been limiting them in the playoff games because these run defenses start upping their game in the playoffs. And at the end of the day, in a playoff game, you've got to complete. We talked about this last year. You have to complete a 3rd and 8 from the pocket to win playoff games. And I thought that's what the Ravens were moving to. I mean, I guess maybe you don't play Cincinnati that way, but I've got a feeling they're going to come out and try to. The Bengals have a young secondary. It didn't look as good as it should have because the rain really helped the Bengals secondary as well. And the Bengals offense just looked like they couldn't move the rock at all. So I think the Ravens are feeling a little rough after last week. They really want to get this offense off the ground. Lamar wants to throw it. They have weapons. Zay Flowers look great. I think there's an opportunity there for the Ravens to do something that I would prefer them to do, which is get Lamar Jackson above 30 pass attempts and try to play that game. And I think that would play into the Bengals' hands. So I think this is a really interesting conversation about what the Ravens are going to do from a game plan strategy because the offseason suggests that they're going to change the way they played the Bengals. But you guys are telling me no way in hell John Harbaugh's going to change the way they play against the Bengals.
Matt, let me go first. No, listen, here's what people get confused. The Ravens didn't have a passing game at all. We had a coordinator who couldn't design. I don't know. His passing offense was high schoolish. It was terrible. It was getting national attention. He was getting shattered online everywhere. He needed to go. We just wanted the option here, is what I feel like anyway, is in the playoffs, you do have to throw the ball a little bit. You do have to throw a 3rd and 8. We wanted to be able to do that. But don't get me wrong. The Ravens are going to run the football. That's what we do. From what I've seen so far, it's only one real game under Moncton. And to me, it looks kind of like he kept Greg Roman's offense in place and added his passing style to it. And me and Matt were talking about it last week just from, a couple of the touchdown runs with Justice Hill. It was very Greg Roman-ish looking, just as far as the formation and the way it was set up.
It was. You're right though, and Lucas, I understand what you're saying with paying Lamar the big boy money and wanting him to, him throwing 30 plus times is playing into your favor because let's just be real. If Lamar's throwing the ball 30, 35 times, we're playing catch up with you guys. And it was an interesting stat that in shotgun, Lamar had it was like 1.7 seconds to get rid of the ball before he was feeling pressure, not necessarily contact, but pressure. The offensive line didn't hold up too well. Even before the left tackle and the center injuries happened to us, Houston just got after us and they kept him, thrown off his back foot for essentially the entire first half. So it'll be interesting to see how they approach this situation because arguably we started running the ball better when J.K. Dobbins got hurt. And we scored our 2 rushing touchdowns in the wake of J.K. Dobbins' injury. And Gus Edwards was picking up yardage. Justice Hill had 2 touchdowns on 8 carries. He amassed 9 yards of offense, in those carries. He averaged 1.1 yard a carry, but had 2 touchdowns. And granted, they were both on the goal line, but we ran the ball better after JK got hurt. And I think in order for us to neutralize Joe Burrow, Chase, Higgins, and Boyd and Mixon, I think the only way to neutralize them is to keep them off the field. And I agree with Josh. I don't think we're going to change the way we've played you guys because getting into a shootout with this offensive line that we got coming in Sunday is so counterproductive that you guys might put up another 50 burger on us if we decide that we want Lamar Jackson to get into a pissing contest with Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very intrigued because to me, I think the Ravens specifically when it comes to the Bengals, I don't know. I think there's a lot of pride there. I think there's pride from Lamar. Lamar was in the same recruiting class as Joe Burrow. He's always been better than Joe in high school and college, and that's how he's got an MVP in the pocket. John Harbaugh I don't think he respects Zach Taylor. I think he thinks it's mainly Joe, and I think he's probably right. I don't know. I think my hope is, maybe I'm just dreaming out there, that the Ravens are very prideful and they want to show these things off. And that's the game they're going to play. But I think you're right about the offensive line injuries, and that might kind of tamp that down. But so just from our perspective as Bengals fans, we want you to throw the ball because we want the game to have more possessions. And that's kind of where it's been breaking down for the Bengals Ravens matchups, because they match up when the Ravens are playing too high shell and mix and matching, and they match up really well. And it's going to be it's going to be a grind. The more possessions happen, the more there's a chance that there's a chase, 55-yard broken tackle type of run and things like that. And that's why we want the game to be a bit longer. But I mean, that's just kind of my perspective, both sides of it there, trying to think through the matchup, trying to figure out what you guys are going to do.
Yeah, and to kind of get into the breakdown of the game, with our defense, we, like Josh said, we play you guys physical, we play you guys tough. You guys haven't really put up a whole lot of points on us, except for those years where we were decimated. And I'm not making excuses. I mean, you guys put up crazy yardage and points on us a couple years ago, but this rivalry is starting to heat up. The defenses. We played a hell of a game defensively last week. Our front seven was a force, and it really protected our secondary, who's missing Marlon Humphrey and now Marcus Williams. I'm just curious as to how you feel about your offensive line holding up against our front four or our front seven, however you want to put it, because you got Orlando Brown Jr. He's not so fleet of foot. We saw him for 3 years. He was here. We drafted him out of Oklahoma in the 3rd round. He's a solid left tackle. And then I know you guys aren't very happy, as I've been listening to you guys, your analysts come on our local radio stations, and I've been seeing, Cincinnati social media for the last couple of days. You guys aren't necessarily Jonah Williams fans. No. And I know that you guys, have been kind of retooling the interior offensive line. With what you know of from the Ravens week 1 game against the Texans and what you saw with you guys on week 1, how do you feel like your offensive line is going to hold up against us?
Better than they did against Cleveland. And I think that they did better than you think they did against Cleveland. And so that means they'll be effective, but can be taken advantage of, and they can lose one-on-ones. And that's the biggest hope for the Bengals offensive line, is you have 5 really solid players. And from watching all these guys play, and you maybe feel like Cordell Volson has the highest ceiling, but just 5 really solid players. And I think that's what they were against Cleveland. There weren't miscommunications. They didn't pass things off wrong. They were where they were supposed to be. Early last year, it was 4 out of 5 new offensive linemen, and it was communication breakdowns left and right. And once they got that cleaned up, that's when they went on that huge winning streak. And they blocked really well. Joe wasn't even sacked more than twice until they played the Ravens in the final week of the season. So, I think that they could just, if they're playing a great defensive line, like a great defensive line. So I think the big question in this matchup is, how great is Odafe Oweh this year? Because if he's just good, he'll be effective, might get 1 sack, but the Bengals will hold. But if he's great, the Bengals don't have great on the offensive line. There is no great there. Orlando Brown Jr. might be so solid and so good and acquire so many accolades and rings that maybe he sneaks into the Hall of Fame if he just keeps going down this path and keeps winning rings and keeps blocking for MVPs. But it's not because he's an elite over-the-top talent. He's just a really solid, smart player that's big-bodied. And that's kind of what the Bengals line is. So there's limitations to it, but I think they're a better unit than what it appeared. I don't know what that means in terms of sack totals. I think they're going to try quick game again just to kind of protect Joe, see how you guys are going to play it. I think it'll be probably a 2-3 sack game. somewhere in between what we saw from Cleveland last week and what we saw from you guys at the end of the year.
Man, I actually broke Adafiobe down today. I counted 6 hurries in last week's game. He held the edge really well. He actually looked good, and he was actually doing moves. Uh, that's been Baltimore Ravens fans' knock on him is he's tried to years past just use his athleticism. He just never had any kind of move to get around, and so he would always get real close but not get there. But he was actually having some moves, and he, like I said, he was getting hurries, and he was definitely affecting the run game. Go ahead, Matt.
I know that you broke him down, and I remember you telling me, on Sunday night that you thought he had a good game. He's been praised all week on the radio. And Lucas, I know that to your credit, you guys have a solid offensive line, and I know Jonah Williams has been like the guy that everybody has bashed on at least from your fan base. From what I've seen, they are not Jonah Williams fans in the least. And you know, David Ojabo had a strip sack to end, at the end of the game last week, and Jadeveon Clowney put pressure on the quarterback all game. He was fantastic in the run game. We have two really good interior linemen in Michael Pierce and Justin Matabike, and we have an exceptional starting defensive tackle in Broad Washington. So I think it's going to be a testament of a battle of wills in the trenches, if you will, for Sunday afternoon's game. And a lot of our game, a lot of the success is going to be predicated on whether or not Joe Mixon can get going. And I know Joe Mixon's a very volatile name, for lack of a better word, with you guys. And I'm not sure how well he did on Sunday, but it seems like as much as you guys, as much as he wants to run the ball, it seems like you guys are still a passing focal team. How do you feel like Mixon matches up against the Ravens, this current Ravens defense?
Well, I think that the Bengals win on Sunday if they just, it was hubris that got us beat, fellas. It was hubris. 3rd and 1 in the rain. Your quarterback can't grip the ball. We throw a 50-50 go ball to T. Higgins. Week 1. Coming on. That was hubris. Now, that's probably what makes the Bengals great at the end of the day. But they were running the ball very well. Joe Mixon looked extremely healthy. And they barely even ran it left. And you guys remember how good of a run blocker Orlando Brown Jr. can be when he gets downhill and he gets his hands on somebody. And they barely even ran the thing left because they only had 13 carries from Joe Mixon. So, I think the run game is going to be significantly better than it was last year. And the fact that they didn't pull it out when their quarterback couldn't grip the ball was asinine to me. And it was hubris from somebody. And I don't know whether it was Joe with the checks on the line or whether it was Zach with the play calls on the sideline. I'm going to take a guess that it was Joe because it was man coverage on the outside, and that's supposed to be his check. So I think that if they're a little smarter about it, they dedicate themselves more to it. They're going to be that shotgun run power gap team that's got a lot of big bodies. And if they can get it downhill, they can effectively run the ball against a lot of teams in this league. And I hope they do that. That's my hope for on Sunday is that, they kind of flip the game on the head, and the Ravens are the team trying to pass. I know we've already discussed that. And then the Bengals are the team that's trying to ground the ball and hold the ball and take a lead and milk the clock and do all those wonderful things, because I just don't think Joe Burrow is going to be Joe Burrow on Sunday. I think he's going to be 85% of Joe Burrow. And does that probably win against the Ravens if you're throwing around the yard? Yeah, maybe, I guess. But if you've got an effective run game, use it. Allow that to set the run game up, get the offense moving, catch a rhythm, get Joe some confidence. And I think that was really an extreme missing part of the game plan on Sunday. So Joe Mixon ran well. The line blocked well, especially for the front they were playing. And I hope they go back to that on Sunday.
Well, switching gears now, I know that we've discussed it earlier on in the show about the Ravens offense and the new pieces and throwing the ball and all that. Your defense went through a few changes in the offseason. particularly at the safety position. You have two new starting safeties this year, I believe, and you lost Von Bell and Jesse Bates, correct?
Yes.
So you got new
And they lost
starters.
Eli Apple, didn't they?
Uh, yeah, but that's not really much of a loss if you. I mean, I can't speak for Lucas, but Eli Apple was a lot more talk than he was game, and
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I
probably
agree.
true.
They are 1,000 times better in the cornerback room. The safety room remains to be seen, and they're probably going to be worse. But the cornerback room, just from camp, is evidently much better. Cam Taylor Britt was a rookie, he's in his second year. Took a big physical jump. Chidobe Awuzie got hurt when the team was 4-4 last year. He was on track to be an all-pro when he tore his ACL in Cleveland, and they were still able to go on that winning streak without him. He's back. Mike Hilton's one of the best nickels in the league. You guys remember your experiences with Mike Hilton from Pittsburgh,
Pittsburgh.
so you're familiar
Yes.
with the Mike Hilton story. And then you draft a second rounder in DJ Turner, who Juan Drago Turner is what he should go by, and he runs a 4.26 out of Michigan, and he had one hell of a camp as well. So, in terms of the secondary, I feel, in terms of the corners, at least in the secondary, the Bengals have really improved. Now, have they improved the entire secondary? That's completely dependent on the play of Nick Scott and the play of Dax Hill, who are the two new starting safeties. Dax Hill was a first-round pick out of Michigan. Nick Scott was a starter in the Super Bowl against the Bengals for the Rams. He's definitely a downgrade from Von Bell, but I think he can be serviceable enough, and you kind of can forget about that safety position. I mean, they had some sub packages where Nick Scott wasn't even on the field, so they could get all those young corners out there. That's the breakdown of the Bengals secondary and where we're at. Eli Apple leaving is an additive move, 100%.
Addition by subtraction, and I want to kind of touch on you guys have a really good front four. DJ Reader, Trey
Hendrickson.
Hendrickson, yeah, Trey Hendrickson,
Yes.
and Sam Hubbard. You guys got playmakers up front. I know you always have a good group of linebackers. That's been historic throughout your friend. Throughout the last 20 years, you guys have always had a couple of really good linebackers. On the field, and it's different because with the Ravens this year, we're not a run first team that we've been in previous years. How do you see the back seven handling this passing offense? Like you said, we both know. Well, all three of us know. Zay Flowers had a fantastic game. He topped out at 19 miles an hour. He averaged the most yards of separation in week one out of all wide receivers. Only thing he didn't do was get in the end zone. And then you got Odell Beckham Jr., who was getting into his groove towards the end of the game. Mark Andrews should be back. You got Rashad Bateman. How do you feel? What is your confidence level with your back seven against our pass catchers?
I think there's going to be a miscommunication on Sunday of some kind. I think from a talent perspective, if they do what Lou tells them to do, they are faster and more athletic than last year. Maybe they don't have as much football IQ, but the secondary is significantly faster. Dax Hill is much faster than Jesse Bates was. I think 4.3 to like 4.55. Nick Scott ran a 4.35 when he was coming out, and Von Bell was notoriously slow at 4.6. And I think you kind of saw that in the AFC Championship game with MVS and Kadarius Toney and these guys running away from the slower guys in the secondary. So I think they match up okay. I've got Zay Flowers on my fantasy team. I think that there's going to be a miscommunication. I think he's really dangerous, and I think he gets in. But this is a faster Bengals secondary from last year. The real strength of you mentioned the linebackers, and I think it's important to mention Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt, because they were able to retain Jermaine Pratt in free agency, which was a real shock to everybody in Cincinnati. And if you look at PFF grading, Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt are very highly touted players. And we want to thank you personally, Baltimore, and everybody listening, because that spin move in 2019 by Lamar Jackson is the sole reason we have Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt. because that spin move was arguably the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to the Cincinnati Bengals. And it happened on 2 linebackers, Nick Vigil, who now plays for the Vikings, and others. Excuse me, guys, there's a car on fire on the highway. So I'm just going to pull over to the side here. Well, we'll see whose team is like this car on Sunday. That's all I got to say. But hey, thanks to the Ravens for making us draft those linebackers, because they've been a huge add and a veteran presence to the defense, and we've got them both locked up long term for really reasonable deals. So, we're the Bengals. We're really excited about our defense. You didn't even mention Joseph Osai, who didn't play week 1, and we honestly, he might be the best pure pass rusher outside of Trey Hendrickson on the line. He looks like he might play on Sunday. We'll see.
I want to kind of mention one of your comments that you just made, that it might be the most embarrassing thing that the Bengals ever had happen to them by the Baltimore Ravens. But I would kind of put Corey Dillon quitting because of Ray Lewis and our defense back in the 2000s over that. But I don't want to go too far back in the history books to stir up some shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't probably old enough to appreciate that, I would say. So maybe I'm a little biased there.
Okay. I mean, I don't know how old you are, my man. So, we were teenagers when that was going on.
Yeah, I was watching football. Let's see, what year was that? 2000.
That was 2003.
It
was around the
2000, 2001. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, buddy, I was aware of football, and my dad was taking me to games, but I don't remember much of that era. That was little Lucas back in the day. That's why I'm such a positive Bengals fan, guys. The first Bengals season I remember was Carson Palmer's first year as a starter in 2004. So you guys know AFC North history. Like, I've got to be one of the most blessed Bengals fans around. Born in the area I was and started watching them when I did, because the Bengals haven't been an awful franchise at all from 2004 on. In fact, they've been an above average franchise in the NFL.
Lucky you.
Well, listen, man, the way you're talking, your secondary is like the greatest thing that's ever been on the field. You don't have any concerns?
I said there's going to be a miscommunication for a touchdown, Josh.
Well, that's just one play, man. But I mean, that's just one play. But you're talking like everybody's good and everybody's perfect.
Everybody's fast. So what? I mean, whatever. What
well,
does
I mean,
that
everybody's
mean? I don't know. They're faster.
The
no, but so the Bengals had a speed problem on defense last year. They gave up intelligence and experience and probably tackling for more speed and less money on the back end. And you guys tell me what that means. I don't know. Like, we played one game in the rain. Deshaun Watson was skipping balls from 15 yards away. So, I mean, they're faster. That's what I'm telling you. They're faster than last year's secondary. Does that mean they're better? We don't know yet. I haven't seen them work as a unit, pass off routes, like do all these things that a Lou Anarumo defense, makes you have to do. But from a athleticism standpoint, they are significantly more athletic. I'm not saying they're better. They could be way worse, but they're more athletic. So, however you want to take that, Josh, is however you want to take that. But I'm not trying to say they're gods and they're better. I'm just giving you the hype on all the guys, and I just feel like they're much more athletic. Does that mean anything? I don't know, but they are more athletic.
All right, I hear you. Hey, man.
All right, so this is a part of the show where Lucas, you good over there, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good, man. My cat bit me.
Josh?
Stop.
Oh, well, it's a demon cat. But I digress.
Yeah.
That bastard bites me every time I'm over your house. Lucas, this is the part of the show where we do a score prediction and a player of the game prediction, or a bold take, whichever one you want to do. But since you're our guest, what do you think the final score of Week 2's Bengals-Ravens showdown, what do you think the score is going to be? And if you have a bold prediction or a player of the game, go ahead and give us your thoughts.
I'm going to say Bengals 20, Ravens 17, Irv Smith Jr. catches 2 touchdowns because he looked absolutely horrible on tape last week. So I imagine that that'll be the weapon you guys, try out to have some softer coverage on. And I think Joe's going to play solid, and I think they're just going to take their openings and run the ball. And you guys have talked me into the idea that there will be less possessions. So 2017 is the score I fell on. Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati might just need to win more. It might just come down to an emotion thing. But we're so nonchalant about everything sometimes that I can't even promise you that. I'm just looking for us to move the ball some and, look competitive. If we do that and go 0-2, I don't think we'll win the North, but I'll be able to, relax as a fan a little bit, I guess. So that's where we're at. I'm going to go 2017 Bengals because I'm not going to come on here and pick the Ravens.
Josh, go ahead and give your outlandish predictions like you always do. You're on mute, Josh. You're on mute.
I'm glad I'm on mute, man. I'm glad I'm on mute because I said something stupid. Look, man, my bold prediction is going to be Gus Edwards. I think he has a big game against the Cincinnati defense. I think he goes 25 carries, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think Lamar has a good day. Odell has a good day. I'm gonna go. 37-17 Ravens.
So you're predicting a 3-touchdown win. Okay. I like your Lucas. He does outlandish picks. He manages to get a laugh or a gasp out of whoever we talk to on the other side of the field in terms of.
No,
fans.
I remember from last year, Matt. I remember very well. I knew that.
And hey Lucas, we won that game too last time I talked to you, pal.
That dumb shovel pass on the goal line. I remember it to this day. I
Oh
won't
man,
forget
dude,
that for sure.
that was the best game of the year. That was the happiest I was all year. That was because your players were talking so much shit. It was so nice. So that was an awesome win.
So
but then you beat us twice in a row. So whatever.
So then to round out the predictions, I am going to say that Zay Flowers has 120 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he gets his first 2 career touchdowns. I'm going to go with the Ravens win. I'm going to go 24-20. I think it's going to be a relatively low-scoring game. I think it's going to be a physical game, but I got the Ravens edging out the Cincinnati Bengals late with a field goal from Justin Tucker.
That sounds about right.
So that'll do it for the Charm City Heavyweights preview show for week 2 with the Ravens and the Bengals. Lucas, thank you so much for coming on, man. We can't wait to have you back on, hopefully for the second game. I believe that's week 11. And before
thanks for being a good sport, Lucas.
Yeah, you were a really good sport.
Hey, always. Football's more fun if we're able to banter back and forth. So whenever we're able to do that, I think it's a lot of fun. And it's Sam Hubbard, the Cincinnati Kid.
Oh, here we go.
A little more fun with you guys. Just a little more fun. That's the last time Baltimore that I will mention that game within this season or any future seasons in a braggadocious way. It will be cast into the annals of history starting right now. I did that on Twitter all year long, so now I'm done with it. I apologize, but I just had to get it in one more time.
You're fine. You have that right.
You're good.
You have that right.
You have that right.
I will say this though. That was that post Bengals game, the Bengals post game show that Josh and I did, the reaction show, Lucas. That was our most viewed non-interview or preview show that we've ever had in terms of views and comments. That was a very long night.
Everybody was happy, man. Everybody was happy. I don't think any of us deep down really expected to win. Deep down, we probably have our hearts broken, but so the fact that we won, everybody was just happy.
Yes. But Lucas, let everybody know where they can find you for all of your fantastic coverage of the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, and right now I've been in the coaching game a bunch. I keep taking these coaching assignments, so we're a little light on the shows, but please follow us at 3 a.m. Coney down there at the bottom. You see it on the screen. You'll find, if I get really sad, I won't tweet. But if you don't see me tweeting, just know I'm sad, Baltimore fans, and you get to enjoy that. And we post great Bengals stats, and if we find anything else that we have, we'll post it. Maybe talk a little smack, and I'm sure we'll be releasing podcasts throughout the year as the season builds, and whenever I can find time in my schedule. But I really appreciate you guys having me on to talk about it, and appreciate talking to everybody. I'm glad I didn't shy away from it, because my wife was like, "Didn't you go on that podcast last year and we lose?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm not scared of that. We're okay. We're okay. We're okay." So, crossing my fingers. If we lose on Sunday, I'm never talking to you guys again.
Oh, you'll be back in about 2 months, Lucas. You can't stay away from us.
Yeah, no, you're probably right. You're probably right.
Well, there you have it, folks. That's a wrap on our show. We will be back live on Sunday night around 9:30 for our live reaction show to the Week 2 Bengals and Ravens showdown. Lucas, thank you so much for coming on again. On Twitter, you'll be able to find Lucas's Twitter handle tagged in our show. And Josh, go ahead and sign us off.
All right. I usually take another cheap shot, but now I like Lucas, so I'm not going to do that. Good luck to you, sir. And I'm looking forward to this game. Let's shut this down. I'm tired. Tomorrow's my birthday, so I expect a lot of happy birthday things on my wall tomorrow. And good night.